All right, let's dive into the automator's journey with n8n. If you're a technical user who's looking for a workflow tool that gives you absolute, total control, well, you've come to the right place. This is for those who want to go way beyond the basics.
So first things first, where does n8n even fit in? You know, when you look at the big players like Zapier and Make, you'll see n8n is playing a totally different game. The big deal is right here. It's source available and it offers self-hosting. That means you can run the entire platform on your own servers. This gives you just incredible control over your data, your privacy, and your costs. For technical teams, that's not just a feature, it's a massive strategic advantage. So here's the path we're going to take on this journey. We'll kick things off with n8n's core philosophy, what it's all about. Then we'll get it up and running with Docker. After that, we'll build our very first workflow, and then we're going to hit the infamous production wall. And finally, we'll talk about what it really takes to master this thing. Okay, first up, let's really get to the heart of what makes n8n tick. Because this isn't just another tool, you know. It's really a whole different philosophy about automation. So what exactly is n8n? Or Nodeamation as it's sometimes called. Think of it as a hybrid. On one hand, you get this beautiful, visual, node-based canvas where you can just drag and drop your logic. But right underneath that surface, it is a developer's absolute playground. You can write your own JavaScript, you can hit any API you want, and because you're hosting it yourself, you get the final say on, well, everything.
And this is exactly why that self-hosting option is such a game changer. Your sensitive customer data isn't being sent to some third-party cloud. You don't get charged more and more just because your automations are successful. And maybe most importantly, there is zero vendor lock-in. Your workflows are literally just JSON files. You own them, you can move them, period.
Okay, so all that power sounds great, right? But how do you actually get your hands on it? Well, if you ask anyone in the community, they'll all tell you the same thing. Docker is the way to go. Now, I know self-hosted instance might sound a little intimidating, but honestly, it boils down to just 3 pretty simple steps. Step 1, install Docker. Step 2, create a couple of tiny config files that basically just tell Docker what you want. And step 3, you pop open your terminal and run one single command. That's it. Docker takes care of everything else. And if you're kind of new to this, you might be asking, what is Docker anyway? The best way to think about it is like a shipping container for software. It packs up n8n and all the little things it needs to run into one neat, tidy box. And this means it'll run the exact same way on your Mac as it does on a giant server in the cloud. Docker Compose, that's just the conductor, making sure the whole orchestra plays in tune.
All right, n8n is up and running on your machine. Now for the really fun part. Let's actually build something. First, we got to understand the building blocks.
Every single n8n workflow, no matter how simple or how ridiculously complex, is built from these 3 pieces. You've got a trigger, that's the thing that kicks it all off. That trigger then fires off a chain of nodes, which are the individual action steps. And to let those nodes talk to other services like Google or Slack, you use credentials to log in securely.
But, and this is a really big but, this is where you hit your first real challenge. Connecting an account on n8n's official cloud service, it's a simple one-click thing. But doing it on your own self-hosted setup is a whole different ballgame. Since you're running it locally, you have to do that whole security handshake process manually.
I mean, just take Google, for example. On the cloud, it's one click. Locally, it's a 5-phase journey deep into the Google Cloud Console. You're creating projects, enabling APIs, configuring consent screens, generating secret keys. It's totally doable, but it's your first real taste of that trade-off we're talking about. With great power comes great responsibility.
So you did it. You pushed through, you built your first workflow, it runs perfectly on your machine. But taking that and making it ready for the real world, what we call production, that's a whole other level.
This right here is the production wall. It's where so many automators get completely stuck. Their awesome workflows just start failing out of nowhere, or worse, they crash the whole server. So what's going on? Why does this happen?
Well, here's the thing. Most of the time, it's not the workflow's logic that's wrong, it's the engineering behind it. Experts often point to these 5 deadly sins. Things like using the super flexible code node for everything, or trying to process like 10,000 items all at once. Any one of these can bring even a powerful server to its knees.
And look, don't get me wrong, n8n is an absolute beast. A single, properly optimized instance can blaze through 220 executions per second. But that keyword there is optimized.
You only get that kind of performance if you build your workflows for scale right from the very beginning.
Okay, so we know the problems. We've seen the pitfalls. Now let's talk about leveling up. How do you go from someone just starting out to a true automation pro?
You see, real mastery of NN isn't just about knowing which nodes to connect. That's just step one. It's about learning to think like an engineer, designing workflows in a modular way, handling errors gracefully, and knowing how to debug when things inevitably break. So where do you learn these skills? Well, the free stuff, the official documentation, YouTube, it's all fantastic for getting your feet wet. But for those deep, production-level skills, you'll probably want a more structured path. Paid courses and certifications give you that structure, but they can be pricey and sometimes they feel a little too theoretical, you know?
And we got to be realistic about the time this takes. You can build your first cool workflow in an afternoon. But to get to a point where you can run business-critical systems on N8, you're probably looking at 60 to 120 hours of really focused learning and practice. It's a serious commitment. And all of this brings us to the final and most important question. NN offers you this incredible, unparalleled level of power, privacy, and control. But in return, it asks for a higher level of technical skill. So the question you have to ask yourself for your projects and your team is this: is that total control worth the complexity? The answer to that will really define your journey as an automator.